This is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back on another very interesting topic on Vedic astrology. And today we'll be talking about Jupiter and its related professions. Now, as we know that career and profession forms a very important part of our lives, and we're always very keen to know as to whether we are in the right profession, do we have the right career, how to enhance our careers, and for students what career to be in, what profession to choose as far as their studies and higher education and learning is concerned. So we've been discussing about various planets as to what their connection is with different professions, and today we'll be talking about Jupiter and its profession or related professions. Now, we are not going to get into the career and profession discussion per se in a birth chart, which means that there are various ways to find out, like I've mentioned in my earlier videos also, what would be the career of a person, whether a person will be good in a career or not. And there are various ways to find out through the 10th house, through the 7th house, through the 6th house, through, if you go into Gemini astrology, through the Amatyakaraka. Now, what constellation of stars or what nakshatra the Amatyakaraka is placed, what nakshatra the 10th house lord is placed, where the 10th house lord is placed in the Navamsha, where the Atmakaraka is placed in the Navansha, or the D10 chart or the divisional chart, which is the Shamsha, which talks specifically about career. So all these are various techniques or various tools where we can figure out as to what profession to go into and what profession to choose, and whether the profession of a person will be good or not. We're not going to get into that discussion today. We've already discussed that in our previous videos to a certain extent, and then in our forthcoming videos we'll be discussing more. But today we'll be just talking about Jupiter and its related professions, meaning that Jupiter has a connection through the techniques which I just discussed as far as your career is concerned. Either it's a 10th house lord, or it's connected with the 6th house or the 7th house or the 10th house, or in the D10 chart, or the Amatyakaraka, or various sutras given by, say, Gemini in the Navamsha chart. If there is a connection of the planet Jupiter, what would be the related professions? What would be the best profession? What profession can you recommend to that person who comes to you as an astrologer? What would be the best profession in case you find that Jupiter is the planet which is going to give this person a good career? That's the topic of our discussion today. So Jupiter is about, of course, it's about higher learning, and the highest learning you can think of as per Hindu philosophy is the Vedas. So Jupiter is about the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, and people who are teachers or people who are somehow associated with these highest level of learning, which is the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Puranas, if you consider the ancient way of life. And of course, in the modern day and age, it also represents higher learning through universities, through PhDs, in any kind of a field. It could be religion, and it could be non-religion as well. It could be some literature, it could be history, anything, or it could be medicine. Some of the greatest doctors have very strong Jupiter in the chart because Jupiter has a connection with higher learning per se, not necessarily religion, which I just discussed, like Vedas, Upanishads. So whoever or people who are in areas where higher learning is involved, Jupiter has a direct connection. So if you see a good, nicely placed Jupiter, first of all, as an astrologer, you should try to think of, what higher education or what higher learning can I recommend this person to go into? And of course, you'll see the other combinations also. You will not just go by Jupiter. I mean, if you see there is a connection of religion, then of course you will say that, okay, go into the higher religion related to religion, or a theology, or some kind of a religious field. If you see there is a connection of Sun, then of course you will recommend that go into a higher learning where you can get into a good government job. So that combination has to be seen, not just Jupiter and religion per se. So any profession, any area which requires higher learning will be a good profession for people whose Jupiter, or the planet Jupiter, has a good connection with the areas or the houses of career, or Matikaraka, or the D10 or the Dasamsa chart, so on and so forth. So they can make excellent teachers. So you have to say whether, of course, the Jupiter is good, and then he has the ability to become a teacher, which is a teacher who's teaching until, say, for example, just as an example, grade 10 or grade 12, which is high school, or whether he can go in for a higher learning and acquire knowledge and acquire a PhD and go ahead and become a university professor. So that other combination, you have to see whether that person has the ability, the money, the support system based on other planets in the chart, that he can go and acquire higher knowledge. So if a person has a good Jupiter connection, or the connection of the planet Jupiter in his birth chart is there with his houses of career, and then you see that he does not have such strong planetary combinations that can help him go and acquire a higher degree, then of course you'll recommend that, okay, well, Jupiter is about teaching, and you can very conveniently go and become a teacher, not necessarily a higher education in terms of becoming a professor, university professor. Or if you see a nicely placed Jupiter in somebody's chart, and he does not even have a combination of planets which can even let him go to beyond a certain level of education, which is basic minimum education, then he has a connection through his lineage with religion. So he could be from a priest family who do not generally, you see that priests, they're not very well educated in terms of they're mostly dedicated, their families of priests were dedicated to temples, and they may not go and acquire higher education through universities. So you can recommend that person that, look, Jupiter is very favorable for you in your birth chart for your house of profession. However, if you see a combination that he does not have the ability to go and acquire a higher education through a university, you can say, well, you can be a religious teacher, or you can because Jupiter is about teaching and communication. So, and if he has that knowledge coming from his ancestors, he can go and become a priest or a religious teacher, or some kind of a person who can give religious or spiritual speeches. So there you'll find there are certain very, very known gurus, and I don't want to name those gurus. One of them comes to my mind is Sri Ravi Shankar of Art of Living. I don't think he has a PhD, but his Jupiter is so beautifully placed that he has that knowledge which he has acquired through his own meditation and through his past life sanskara, or impressions, so as to say, that he didn't have to go and acquire that knowledge through a university. So you obviously, a person like a Sri Ravi Shankar would become world renowned because he has acquired that knowledge through his own efforts, through religious scriptures, and see where he is today. So I'm just giving you an example. So not necessarily Jupiter, when it comes to religion or teaching, has to be highly qualified, so as to say, in terms of a university education or a PhD or something like that. But yes, it's about Jupiter makes an excellent teacher, an excellent communicator of religion, so as to say. So you'll see a lot of people which are connected with religion has a strong connection with Jupiter. So we discussed about ancient scriptures, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, and also the connection of becoming a connection would become teachers in institutions of higher learning like universities, because of their good oratory and speaking skills as well. And then they are generally, Jupiter has a good connection with the science of mantras as well. So people with good Jupiters generally, if they are, especially when they are connected with religious activities, they have the knowledge of the mantras as well. And of course, mantras, again, it's coming from the four Vedas. The four Vedas, as you know, the Rig Veda is about the ancient mantras and the deities, and the Yajur Veda is about religious rituals. The Sama Veda is about devotional music or divine music, and the fourth Veda is the Atharva Veda, which is also about magical mantras. So mantra and Jupiter has also a very great connection. And also you would see that regardless of whether they can acquire a higher degree or a higher education through a university, they generally, people with a strong Jupiter, they generally reach at very high levels. Like I just gave you an example of Sri Ravi Shankar. I don't think he has a great university degree, but see where he is. And you have other examples of people who are not only Hinduism but other religions. So they have reached the pinnacle of their career in their religious groups or religious congregations if Jupiter is well placed. So Jupiter generally makes you rise high in life. In corporates, say for example, it does not necessarily, like I mentioned, does not necessarily have to be related to religion. So if he is into a corporate field, generally you will see that people with a good Jupiter, well placed Jupiter, and a good connection with their houses of career, they will rise very high in whatever organizations they are. And in specific terms, Jupiter has a direct relationship with finance. So I know you'll ask me, well, finance and Mercury are synonymous. No, Mercury is about money making, trading. It's about money. It's not about finance. So you'll see a lot of CFOs, chief financial officers, and controllers, and head of finance organization where money management is concerned, or corporate finance is concerned. That has a great connection with Jupiter. Now, of course, stock traders, that's more like Mercury. Dealing in money, trading, foreign exchange, that's an area which is ruled by Mercury, because that's about making money, not about managing level at an enterprise or a corporate level. That is Jupiter, direct connection. He's been given that portfolio of management. So like I said, you'll see a lot of CFOs having a good connection of Jupiter with their in their birth charts, with their houses of profession. Now accounting is not related with Jupiter. That's more Mercury like. So a lot of chartered accountants will be connected with the planet Mercury, or a CPA will be more connected with the planet Mercury, or a stock trader like I mentioned, or money maker, somebody who makes quick money through trading activities. But management of money, that comes under the purview of Jupiter. He's not going to be an accountant. He's going to be managing level at a higher level. And in general, Jupiter is about, even in a family or any kind of an organization, even in a family, you'll see people who are head of the families, their Jupiter is very well placed. Not necessarily connection with the career. So we're just going a little off here. In general, Jupiter is about, holding high positions. So look at a chart, and if you see a Jupiter has a good connection with the career, first of all, you come to a conclusion that yes, this person is going to reach in his organization, whatever career he chooses, he's going to be placed at a very high position in whatever he does. And then, of course, I've just discussed with you about what areas in specific terms he could be good in. Religious teachers, religious speakers, heads of organizations, any organization, and especially in the area of finance, like I mentioned, CFOs and controllers and so on and so forth. So hopefully you enjoyed this video on Jupiter and its related professions. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.